All right, chapter 31. Dare ye and Wierd. That's Scottish, and I probably totally said it wrong. Forrest grabbed hold of Maddie's arm, and the three ran for their lives. But the sweep's long legs carried him so fast he was able to reach out and grab Maddie, pulling her from Forrest's grasp. Thought you could run out on me, little rat catcher, the sweep hissed. Well, I'll put an end to your running, I will. Let her go, Ned demanded. He pulled the cape's hood from his head. 'Tis me you want, not her. What's this? Simon Frick muttered as he looked from Maddie to Ned. What goes on here? Is that you, vermin, dressed in skirts? And who might you be? He hissed in Maddie's ears, giving her a rough shake. Take your dirty hands off me, Maddie cried as she struggled to get free. Ah, Scottish rogue, is it? Simon Frick whispered. Leave the girl be, and I'll go with you, offered Ned, his voice cracking with fear. Forrest shivered at the sight of Simon Frick's thin lips curling into another smile. A generous offer, the sweep wheezed. But have you really learned your lesson? I won't run away again, I swear, Ned cried. Perhaps, if you were to lose an eye, or maybe your nose, that might prevent you from straying, the sweep wheezed as he held up his dagger. If you harm it in any way, I shall tell my father, and he will have the constable arrest you, Forrest threatened. The sweep's gray face twisted into a smile. Oh, yes, your father and the constable, he murmured. Capital idea. Do call them, bird boy. But I shouldn't think they'd be as interested in the likes of this little vermin's fate. He lifted Ned with one hand and shook him. No, I dare say they wouldn't find his bony carcass all that interesting, though they might pause to wonder why he is dressed in this lovely green frock. That might capture their attention. That and this little Scottish wench here waiting down by the river. Would it be a boat that you're waiting for, miss? Forrest felt his mouth go dry. 'Tis not your business, he said. Ah, yes, business, the sweep grinned. I've heard tell of a dangerous business, but I wouldn't know, would I? No, I've me own business to attend to now, so I'll leave you to yours. And I promise you this, bird boy, if you dare to rub your nose in my business again, I shall take an interest in yours. Yes, the constable of the tower would be most interested in your whereabouts this night, I reckon. He held up his dagger. Let's you and me take a walk now, vermin, Simon Frick whispered into Ned's ear as the knife's blade grazed his throat. Just a short walk is all we shall need. Forrest and Maddie froze as they watched the stooped figure pushing Ned forward, the ends of the green cape trailing in the mud. Forrest knew that if he tried to rush the sweep, the dagger in his hand could easily pierce Ned's neck. But he couldn't just let them walk away. He couldn't let the sweep hurt Ned. He gave a sharp whistle, and a sudden flapping of wings sounded overhead. What's that, then? Simon Frick hissed, as Tuck swooped down low and grazed the top of his hat. The sweep cursed and tried waving Tuck away with his dagger, but the raven was able to dodge him. He swooped down again, and this time he lifted the sweep's hat from his head and dropped it over into the rank, murky water. Blasted raven, Simon Frick shouted as he shoved Ned along. I'll take your bloody nose off right now. He raised his dagger and carefully aimed at Ned's face, when Tuck flew in low and laid a mighty peck at the back of the sweep's neck. Simon Frick cried out in surprise as he spun around to shoo away the bird, but he tripped over Ned's cape. He fell face forward onto his own dagger, gasping and choking and clutching as he writhed in pain. His mouth opened, his eyes rolled back, and he gave 3 rasping breaths, and then he fell silent. The children stared wide-eyed at the motionless figure on the ground. Do you think he's dead? Maddie whispered. I don't know, Ned said. But if he's not, Forrest said, he's sure to come after us. Quick, let's run. Forrest could barely make out the river as they raced toward the King's Stairs. Were those footsteps behind them or just the sounds of their own feet? They dared not stop and find out. It wasn't until they reached the bottom of the step that they saw the boat gliding toward them through the fog. They're here, Maddie whispered. They're here. Forrest could see Ewan MacDonald sitting beside a boatman who manned the oars. Forrest and Ned rushed to help Maddie into the boat. God be praised, Ewan MacDonald said as she fell into his arms. Then he turned to Forrest. Were you followed? Yes, Forrest whispered, but only by one, and he tripped and fell onto his own dagger. I think he's dead. The Lord looks after the innocent, MacDonald said, and if you two need sheltering, come aboard. We're indebted to you both after what you've risked tonight. We can promise you safe passage once we're out of English waters. Oh, yes, do come with us, Maddie pleaded. You can both leave this dreadful place forever. Ned nodded eagerly, but Forrest was caught off guard. Forever? Forrest whispered under his breath. He understood that if he were to leave now, it would mark him as guilty and he could never return. We've always dreamed of leaving, Ned whispered. Now's our dream of going out into the world to have real adventures. It would come true. Best hurry if you're humming, lads, the boatman called. Ned's enthusiasm gave Forrest all the encouragement he needed to grab hold of the boat. He was about to climb in when he turned his head toward the tower for one last look. The fog was so thick he couldn't make it out, but as he stared into the swirling mist, his thoughts suddenly turned to his family. How heartsick would his mother be if he disappeared forever? Who would help his father with the ravens? And who would make Mary laugh by turning Bee into a pirate? And would little Bee even remember she had had a big brother? How was he to leave them all forever? At that moment he knew that it wasn't his destiny to go, but rather to stay. You go on without me, he said, letting go of the boat. What are you talking about? Ned cried. I can't go, Forrest tried to explain. This is my home. My family is here. My life is here. My father expects me to be Ravenmaster one day, and I think I shall be a good one. Then he turned to Maddie. You were right. It does take courage to face your destiny. You always had that courage, Maddie said, reaching out for his hand. You two are the bravest boys I know. How can I ever thank you for all you've done for me? I don't know what to say, Ned said, turning to Forrest. You've been the best of friends to me. Ned looked anxiously at the boat. I always hoped you and me and Tuck would never part. Forrest felt his heart breaking at the thought of never seeing Ned again. Maybe we won't have to, Forrest whispered as he pulled the spyglass off his neck and held it out to his friend. You take it. You can use it to find me no matter where you go. Just point it in the direction of the tower, and Tuck and I will be thinking of you. Just look through it in a special way we always do, and we'll see each other. I promise you will. Are you sure you want me to have it? Ned cried, clutching the spyglass to his heart. I'm sure. I won't ever forget you, Ned whispered, and I won't forget you, for I doubt I could forget how dreadful you look in that dress. They both smiled as they fought to hold back their tears, and Ned curtsied. Then the rebel Scot offered Ned a hand and helped him into the boat. Are you coming, boy? The boatman asked, nodding toward Forrest. No, Forrest told him. I live here. Then hurry, lad, and give us a push, the boatman answered. And because his arms were strong enough and because his heart was big enough, Forrest was able to give them just the push they needed to send their boat into the river out of harm's way and out of his life forever. Later that night, as Tuck folded his wings high up on the rafter in the shed, Forrest sank down into the straw below him. But he couldn't settle his mind into a peaceful sleep. As happy as he was for his friends who were safely sailing to freedom, he was also overwhelmed with the sorrow of his loss, for he knew he would never see them again. It's just you and me now, Tuck, he whispered softly in the dark. The raven, hearing his name, murmured from above as he fluffed out his feathers. And then, as if he understood all that was in his master's heart, Tuck rustled through his hoard of treasures. Seconds later, Forrest felt a small, hard object hit him on the head. Giving me a present, are you? He asked. Though it was too dark to see, he managed to search through the straw until his fingers clasped around the hard, smooth band. And in a tiny ray of moonlight that shone through a crack in the shed's door, he saw the red of the stone. With his heart beating wildly, Forrest fingered the inside of the band. He needed no light to read the words inscribed there. Dree yen way, he whispered as he clutched the ring tightly. Face your destiny. And he smiled, for he understood that he had found the courage to do just that. So, who had that ring that was lost all along? The bird. Maddie's safe. Rat's now safe too. Forrest has done amazing things. But now he's alone.